A medical doctor back home. I was also a general practitioner. I practiced for about, let's say, about 5 years within the practice. Again, we want to be solutions in any way we find ourselves. And Canada can kind of have that issue with the human resources, the health side. So I had to go back to practice. Transitioning isn't very easy, but I had those information, like I said. Some of those information were also why I almost said I wouldn't practice before moving. But transitioning isn't easy, but the process is, the way they do it here, getting licensed isn't equal to getting licensed to practice, but you can be licensed, you can get what they call a license sheet, you can get some kind of license that shows you're a doctor, but you're not registered to practice really. Or some people go to the extent of going to UK. So the people go to the extent of going to the UK to do the training, like do the residency training.
Guys, welcome to the show today. This is Juliet, and today we have a very special guest. His name is Dr. Ugochukwu. He is a medical doctor from Nigeria that just migrated to Canada. Dr. Ugochukwu, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing very fine, thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to speak to you today because, when it comes to medical line, it's very confusing for a lot of people transitioning, into the medical field in Canada. So, Dr. Ugochukwu, please, can you give us a little background of, why you moved to Canada and what you were doing in Nigeria before moving?
Well, like I said, I was a medical doctor back home. I was also a general practitioner. I practiced for about, let's say, about 5 years before I left to Canada. And I did some other kind of varying roles, like something like a claim adjuster, working in a health management organization, AXAM and SAD. I did a little bit of contract job with them before moving also, alongside my general practice role. I also did some kind of management job with a health organization. It's called FHS Consulting, so it's a health consulting organization. So that was the kind of jobs I did back home. So my experience mainly is just mostly as a general practitioner.
Oh wow!
In Nigeria.
So what prompted the move and why Canada?
Sincerely speaking, what prompted the move is that I had friends that moved, and I had friends who had moved to UK, Canada, US, and when I spoke to them, the only thing that Canada had offering that was enticing was getting their citizenship. So because it was basically like coming in as a PR first of all, and then you get citizenship in about 3 years, people always say. So that was what was catchy about Canada. And the fact that I've always wanted to move to more of a North American country kind of stuff. So that was basically why I saw Canada.
Okay. So right now that you're in Canada, do you want to practice as a medical doctor? And if yes, how is the transitioning process?
Well, the answer is yes, I want to practice. And even though before I moved, I had closed my mind I wouldn't practice, but on arrival, speaking with friends, and again, in everything sometimes you want mentorship, right? So meeting some of my seniors who have been in the process and are practicing, I quickly resolved that the best option for me was to go back into practice. Again, we want to be solutions in any way we find ourselves. And Canada can kind of have that issue with the human resources, the health side. So I had to go back to practice. Transitioning isn't very easy, but I had those information, like I said. Some of those information were also why I almost said I wouldn't practice before moving. But transitioning isn't easy, but the process is not very straight. But where to start is to write the exams. I've written one of it, I passed, and then the second one I'll be writing this January also. So this one I'm writing now is the one you actually need. It's called MCCQE one. So it's the one you need to write to get licensed. Now, the way they do it here, getting licensed isn't equal to getting licensed to practice, but you can be licensed, you can get what they call a license sheet, you can get some kind of license that shows you're a doctor, but you're not registered to practice or licensed to practice. So the transitioning going further from examination would now involve maybe your experience, what you've been doing before, maybe volunteering if you've done some kind of research work. It depends also if you want to go into residency or if in Nigeria you've kind of done your residency in family medicine, then it might be easier for you. So if you've done residency in family medicine in Nigeria, that's what they call post-training here, like post-graduation training. So then what they now need here for you is to say if you've done some kind of experience, independent experience too in Nigeria. So now what I did in Nigeria was mostly, I did my post-training, which is a house job training after I graduated for a year. Then I went on to do my NYSC. I didn't go back to the residency training, I just switched to practice. That's basically, Nigeria allows that. I think the UK system is basically all practice. Right? So it allows that. So with that, I have independent experience, but the rotations they need in, for example, the province where we are, Alberta, I don't have all the rotations to go based on the criteria they set in place as at today. Because again, things are changing, provinces are trying to change and things to accept or bring in more, allow more people with experience to practice, right? So because I just went straight to practice, I have independent experience, but I do not have the training, some of the trainings they are expecting that I have the certificate for. And but other provinces also, maybe like Saskatchewan, would allow you practice with that 1 year training, that's post-graduation training, which we did as housemanship. They might allow you practice if you have enough independent experience. So options available for us or for me is if I want to do the residency training again here, like start up and do residency training before going to practice, for instance, to be able to practice in Alberta, or to go to some of those provinces that might allow your 1 year post-graduation training, which I really did, yes, and then train, and then go in, and then after some time, transit from there back to any other province I want to be, if really. Or some people go to the extent of going to UK. So the people go to the extent of going to the UK to do the training, like do a residency training program and then come back.
So typically, on the average, how many years do you think it takes to transition fully into the medical field?
So because the medical field it's a bit broad, it's not straightforward, right? For instance, I've seen someone who went to do residency, it took her about 2 years. That's my very good friend. So it took her about 2 years to be able to get in and start residency. But typically, that's not what it's going to take, right? Because even if you finish your exams in about 2 years, the process of getting an interview, because like I said, it's competitive. Nigerians aren't the only one in the process. We have Indians, we have Mexicans, we have Pakistani, we have Iranians. You have so many IMGs in Canada. Then you have even Canadian citizens who trained, like did their medical schooling outside Canada. All of us are classed, whether you're a Canadian citizen or not, we're all classed as international medical graduates. Now, because of that competition, to get residency is a bit difficult because they have, their teaching hospitals is not as if it's so big. So they have limited spaces, and they kind of plan their stuffs, how they go about number of students they can take, number of trainees they can take, and all. So the competition is usually very high because more quota goes to those who are trained here. Of course, if you are trained here, yes, there's no delay. You just go straight. You go straight, right? Now, if you're coming from outside now, to give those quota, you have to apportion it properly to make sure you're well covered in terms of resources and all. So that's one way. Again, I know someone who did it in 2 years, but she was fast, so we consider that being very fast. And some people might have to get into that process. If you speaking from experience, they would say about 5 years before they were able to get into residency. So that's residency route. For some, the faster one, some people take even 6 years for that. For the faster one is practice ready. For that one, that was the one I was trying to explain earlier, that in Saskatchewan, or somebody might allow you experience from Nigeria. So that experience is like 1 year. If you've done, for those, some of us who also went to South Africa to do the postgraduate training, there are some Nigerians who didn't do their housemanship in Nigeria or went to South Africa to do post-house. If you have done it for 2 years, that would serve, especially in Alberta here. So that would serve as, okay, you've done post-graduation training for about 2 years. Then you now go from there. Other requirement they might require first you've passed your exams already. So if you've passed one, the major exam is one now. So if you've passed the exam, you have the rotation trainings they need. The next thing will now be for you to apply to the province, and you would be able to go from there. So the province then ask you to write. There's another exam, but those are little. What we will consider them as little exams, right? Because by experience you should be able to clear those ones. So those are now the necessary other things you might be doing over time. So that's the faster route. For that one, if you have those rotations, they need in all the provinces like Alberta, Ontario. It might not take you up to 2-3 years once you've passed the exam. So that's the faster route.
Yeah.
So most people who don't have it are those for people like us who didn't go through that experience. So that experience of going through postgraduate training at home. So those are the ones that have that difficulty. People like me.
Yeah.
And majority of us are the ones here, fortunately. Again, the training or the postgraduate training has to be in family medicine.
Oh.
So that's another sense. So people who are surgeons back home, who have done their training, have a lot of experience, even when they come, they can't necessarily switch to be surgeons here. So they have to, if they want to practice, the easier one is to go back to do family medicine rotations. So they are trapped like me. So there are surgeons who are here, even neurosurgeons. I know an Indian who's a neurosurgeon. He's one of the most angry international medical graduates I've seen. Yeah. But he's here, so whether you're a neurosurgeon or not, nobody cares, right? Yeah, because to switch becomes difficult for you because you're trapped like me. So surgeons, maybe O&G physicians, those who are into obstetric and gynecology, like gynecologists and all. So most of those specialists are trapped like us. Yeah. So the people who have that ability to switch easily here for that practice ready I'm talking about are family physicians. Yeah, so but for me I had the information back home, so I knew all these things.
So you were prepared minded.
So I was very prepared by my mind that the options available for me was to write the exams. If it doesn't work, go to UK and see if you can do the residency and come back.
Oh. So I'm curious, is there like this exam you're talking about, is it like you read on your own or you kind of enroll in a program? How do you get ready for these exams?
Well, for now, the way the Canadian system has left it is it's on you. You can decide to study by yourself. You can decide to enroll. There are some kind of groups that kind of assist you. You pay, so it's your own business. So it's your duty to know how you want to prepare for the exam. So what you can read by yourself, you can enroll in certain organizations. They would help you. What the government did to help international medical graduates is to kind of sponsor. They sponsor some kind of organization. For instance, I know Alberta International Medical Graduates Association is being sponsored by I think IRCC and maybe even the Alberta government. So basically for that one, most of international medical migrants who are in Alberta are under them. We pay very little. We pay them about $50 a year. Okay. So I strongly believe with the resources we get from them, that's not enough. So they get sponsorship that helps them run. So they might assist you, prepare you, like assist you in terms of preparing for the exams. So like materials you need and all those stuff, you might get it in their website and all that. But preparing is on you. So it's not like maybe in insurance, which I did a little bit, where a particular school, so read this particular stuff, go for the exams, you are ready. So it's on you. You decide when you're ready for the exam. You read and you go.
Okay, so coming to the exam, is there like some transferred knowledge, maybe things you read in Nigeria that you saw during your preparation, or everything is just new to you?
Well, so the truth is, medical practice all over the world is the same knowledge, right? Just like software and all. The difference is usually in what we call operating protocols. So the way a Canadian doctor might approach an emergency might not necessarily be exactly the same way, a Nigerian might approach, and this is majorly because of resources available to you. Okay. So Nigerians are more necessarily, you try to be creative and you might be doing a step ahead. Over here, the protocols are followed. So if there's a standard operating protocol, it is followed step by step. For instance, you will know if you go to a hospital for headache, you might start with Tylenol.
Yeah.
So nobody is going to admit you because in Nigeria there's a probability somebody might admit you. If you keep saying it's too much, doctor, you cannot go, they might admit you. Right?
Yeah.
So those are the differences, So over here, so that's the differences basically in the exam. So aside from that, the ethics are different too, because at home I wouldn't say I studied ethics in terms of like Nigerian medical
Standard,
ethics, right? So but here ethics is almost everything for them, for the ethics of their practice. That's the second thing. Then I would also highlight the fact that, again, standard operating protocols, their kind of ethics, the kind of cases common to Canada isn't the same thing common to tropical countries where we are coming from, right? So we might have read some kind of things common to them. They too, they have read what's common to us. But because the experience and things we're exposed to are not what is here, so you get used to what's the tropical issues over there. And when you come here to practice here, totally different cases more common to them. So it's almost like you now having to concentrate to study more. It's not as if you didn't read them back home. You like I said, medical knowledge is
the same.
Yeah, so but you now have to concentrate more on those things to know them better, because they are not necessarily what you experience. The principle might still be the same in terms of emergency, making sure this person is safe and healthy, but this difference now is you were not necessarily used to that case back home. So here those are not very common. They're not common over there, they're common here. For instance, diabetes is diabetes everywhere. So the approach would basically still be the same, but there are my other kind of cases, clinical cases, that are different. So they are common here, they're not common back home. One is hypothermia. So a homeless person falls down and they bring into the hospital. The approach at home is not the same thing at all. It's not the same. At home, I don't know what will make you bring somebody to the hospital, emergency, and it's hypothermia. So that's just the example I was going to give. So hypothermia, it can be common here because there are so many homeless people, so they drop them, they just rush them to the hospital. You want to know how to approach that. There might be different instances. Maybe the person is maybe has taken is under drug intoxication, but hypothermia is one thing there with drug intoxication. It's not necessarily common back home for you to see that kind of case of hypothermia. It can be, but maybe the hypothermia you see is maybe from sepsis, maybe a small child. Now the temperature drops because of infection.
So for people trying to move to Canada or from any other country, maybe India, Pakistan or whatever, can you please list the exams that they need to take so that they will be aware before coming? And is it possible for them to start studying over there before they move over here?
Yes. So the exam is proctored. So for the main one, now with the way Canada is, so things can change. But the way the medical system is here, what you need, if you're a doctor from there, and then they verify your document, because you're going to go through your certificates being verified, right? Once it's verified and you're a doctor, you register with the physicians here, physician apply. That now qualifies you to write the licentiate exam. It's called MCCQE1, so it's a qualifying examination. So before there used to be, I think about two of them, QE1 and QE2, MCCQE1 and QE2. But now all you need is the MCCQE1. And after that, once you pass it, you can now go through submitting some of your documents, which will also still be verified again. And then you can get what they call the licentiate. Then if you want to do residency, the extra exam that is needed is what we call OSCE. It's more of like a practical exam now. So aside from the theory, which you wrote for the licentiate, the practical part is they now want to assess you on that part before you get into residency. So that's the second major one, what we call the two majors.
And that's what I've written.
The one I'm going to be writing now is the MCCQE1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so now after the two exams, that's if you want to go for residency, you need to do the two. If you want to go for the practice ready, as I said earlier, there might be more, which we will not be allowed to speak in a few time now. But if you want to go for the practice ready, the major one they need is the MCCQE1, not necessarily the NACOSCE. And so after the two exams, if you're going for the practice ready, there's another one we call therapeutic decision making. It is province based. You wouldn't just be the one to decide you want to get right. So when you've applied to go to a province to practice, based on the fact that I practice ready, they assess your document and feel that the rotations and experience you have is enough for them, they will now be the one to say, okay, that you are okay, that they want you to write a therapeutic decision making exams and all those kind of stuff. So you can then write that. I hope I am correct because I'm looking at majorly the residency process.
Because
the
that's your part.
That's the part I'm hoping to follow.
Okay.
The therapeutic decision making, getting qualified to write it is not necessarily clear, but what I used to know is you actually apply, then the province tends to pick up whether you should be doing it or not. So, and it's the same for all international medical graduates, whether like the countries you mentioned, it's the same for, as long as you're international medical graduates, it's the same thing for everyone.
Yeah. Oh wow. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Really shared a lot of light to this topic. I'm sure some of the viewers will gain so much from it. We appreciate you coming and speaking to this. We wish you best of luck in your exam.
Thank you very much.
Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. See you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.